Welcome to Sammy Eats. My name is Samantha Mui, cookbook author and a culinary blogger. Over each episode, I'm going to share with you an Asian dish with a twist and share with you some of my favorite kitchen hacks. On today's episode, we're going to be doing my sweet and sour meatballs, and I'm going to share with you how versatile this meat mixture really is. So the first thing we're gonna do today is we're gonna be making our meatball mixture. So first, we have our fresh ingredients. We're gonna have our cilantro. I'm gonna have this vegetable, which is another hack I wanna share with you when it comes to getting this vegetable mixture, is that you actually want to go to the store and buy this thing called Mirepoix mix. Mirepoix mix is usually just a mixture of celery, onions, carrots, and you don't even have to chop this yourself, which is amazing. Another thing I'm going to add to it is garlic cloves. I'm going to go ahead and just have it minced. I also have an egg, which is really important for meatball mixture because you need a binder, something that's going to hold it together when you're going to put it in the oven. Now, one of my biggest hacks is this dry onion soup mix. You usually get them in a little envelope packet, and it literally is all the flavor you need in one packet. And then when you add it, combine it with all these fresh ingredients, it really makes for a fantastic meatball. So the first thing I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna turn my heat on to medium-low. So I'm gonna wait a little bit until it gets hot, and then I'm gonna go ahead and saute it a little bit. What you're looking for is a translucent vegetable. You really want it to be soft. So for a meatball, you can traditionally use a beef meat. For me, I wanna go for the leaner side today, so I'm gonna use a ground turkey meat. Feel free to try what works best for you and your family. All right, so now that my pan's hot, I'm gonna go ahead and add the oil, and I'm gonna saute my vegetables. So I'm gonna use a little bit of cooking oil, maybe just about 1 or 2 tablespoons. You can really eyeball it. Got my Mirepoix. You hear it sizzle a bit. Just let it cook a little bit. So you're probably wondering how I even came up with this meatball mixture. It's funny, many years ago, I used to work at a newspaper firm creating global menus for their employees during lunch. And on one particular occasion, there was so many ground beef left over from a barbecue, and we had about 80 pounds of beef logs, and it was about to expire in 2 weeks. So I wanted to just kind of use up all the ingredients in the kitchen. So I grabbed all the fresh ingredients that I had and taking away the ground beef logs, as well as some pantry staples that we always had. And I created this thing called the cranberry meatloaf. First, I wasn't sure how people were gonna take it, because to me, it's just like a bunch of scrap thrown together. But to my surprise, within a day of serving it, everybody asked, "What is this meatloaf?" And we started this take-home program where people would have a slice of meatloaf during lunchtime and bring a whole meatloaf to their families. This just proves that this meatloaf mixture, or meatball mixture, is just so versatile. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it into my meatball mixture. Leave the pan on the stove top, and I'll show you why later. We've got our dry onion soup mix. This is the major hack, you all. Once you do this, you're never gonna go back. All right, now I have some fresh cilantro. I also have some panko breadcrumbs. I'm also gonna take some fresh garlic and mince it with my little garlic press. So I think I'm gonna probably use 2 to 3 of these garlic cloves. All right, just go ahead, smooth it out. Now that I have that, I'm gonna go ahead and crack 1 egg open. And additionally, I'm gonna add some milk. So I'm gonna put a little half of it in. And now I'm gonna grab my gloves, because sometimes you just wanna keep your hands clean. If you don't mind and you like to get down and dirty, go ahead and use your hands too. But for today, I've got this nice dress on, don't wanna get it messy, so. This is also one of those really great recipes if you have kids and they love to mix things, or they wanna be involved in the cooking process. This is one of those type of recipes that is just really great for that. Another hack you can do is actually when you're taking off your gloves and you don't want the meat juices on you, just pull this, tuck it in, make a little ball, put your other glove in here, and there you go. Mess free. We're gonna half this meat mixture, so I have 1 ball here, and I have another ball here. And this meatball mixture is gonna make around 22 meatballs to 24 meatballs, depending on how big you want your meatballs. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in half again. I'm really eyeballing it, but you kind of get the gist. This meatball, we're gonna make 3 meatballs. That's one. It's a little harder to roll, but you get the gist. Look, the perfect meatball, just like that. And go ahead and do the same thing. As promised, I have 24 perfectly imperfect meatballs before your eyes. So as you can see, some of these don't look exact, but they're gonna do the trick. Over here, I have my oven preheated at 400 degrees. I'm gonna stick them in for 15 to 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and plop them in. Don't forget your trusty oven mitts. Halfway through the process, you actually want to take them out, and we are gonna be making a sweet and sour glaze, and we're gonna put it on top of the meatball. Now we're gonna make our sweet and sour sauce. Over here, I have all our components. We have our hoisin sauce, cranberry sauce, and ketchup sauce. This is gonna serve as our base for our flavors. And then to add that sour tang, we have our rice wine vinegar. So go ahead, I'm just gonna put my rice wine vinegar in here. Also gonna throw in my ketchup. You can see all those lovely bubbles. And go ahead and just mix these ingredients in first. You can also use a whisk, but for me, I prefer to keep it with less utensils, which means less cleanup for myself. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna put this on low heat and really let the flavors marinate together for a little bit. Now that I've kind of got like a barbecue-y texture, I want to go ahead and make my cornstarch slurry. We're just gonna put our cornstarch into my lovely water. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix it until it's well combined. And once it's all combined, we're gonna go ahead and add directly into our sauce. Okay, and now we can kind of turn off the heat and just kind of let it do its thing. And it's kind of take the texture in a different direction. So now that I've taken out my turkey meatball in the halfway mark, I'm gonna go ahead and glaze it with this lovely sweet and sour mix. So just take a pastry brush and just go ahead and just kind of paint over these meatballs. We're gonna begin the glazing. This is gonna make these meatballs look so yummy. So now that I've got all my meatballs glazed their top coat, I'm gonna go ahead and put it back into the oven so it can bake for longer. And later we're gonna do a second coat when we actually lather all the sauce on top of the meatball. But first, let's put it back in. Go ahead, we'll put it back for another 7 minutes. So now that my meatballs have actually been cooked, I'm gonna go ahead and do the second glaze. So all I'm gonna do is just pour it over the meatballs, just like so. Alright, now with your tongs, just go ahead and just coat your meatball in this lovely sauce before we plate. The stickier, the better. So just make sure each meatball gets a lot of love with the sauce. But before I forget, as you know, I love a little bit of heat, so I'm gonna add a little bit of my chili oil, slightly a little bit over these meatballs. Oh, that looks so decadent. Let's go ahead and give an extra coat of this yummy sauce. Oh. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on my platter. Essentially, these are kind of like cocktail meatballs. You eat them at parties. And now when it comes to plating, you can just serve it like this, or you can kind of spruce it up and make it very fancy. For me, I love to add different colors, things that pop, make these meatballs really just shine. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of green onions, sprinkle a little bit of really green onions. I also love a little bit of sesame seed. Just gonna add a little bit of the nutty flavor that you constantly want in these meatballs. And last but not least, I have these microgreens with edible flowers. I love how this adds a nice little contrast. And there you have it, folks. A wonderful, beautiful turkey Asian sweet and sour meatballs. All right, let me go ahead and try one of these meatballs for you. So I got this like super long skewer.
Wow. It's sweet, it's tangy. The meatball, it's soft and moist. It's a party in your mouth.
Thank you so much for watching. I know that you will love this meat mixture as much as I do. Stay tuned for more Sammy Eats.